Today I'm talking about the Nikon Zf, recently announced full frame camera with a retro look. It's basically the larger brother of the ZFC, which is APS-C, and they basically took what I can tell the Z6 platform in addition to the new processor of the Z8 and Z9, fit it all into a relatively compact camera. There's a lot to it. Let's check it out. Look of the camera with a 40mm f2 SE version that fits that aesthetic. Gonna go over the main physical features of this camera. On the front we have this dial, which is good. You could potentially use it for aperture or whatever you want. And they do have different colors, but as far as I can tell, they're only going to be on the official Nikon websites for whatever region you're in. I'd like this orange one, but don't think I'll be buying this camera, even though it is very appealing to me. But you get the Z mount, of course, full frame sensor. You got the one front customizable button, fully articulating screen. I think this is a good option for this specific camera. Some photographers would prefer a different type of tilting mechanism, but in this case you can specifically tilt the screen back into the camera to get that traditional retro film camera feel as you're using it. On the top you've got ISO, and it looks like a good amount of selections there, and I think that'll work, but you can set it to C and then use one of the other dials if you want. And then you've also got a dedicated shutter speed. Doesn't look like as many options here, so I think I would potentially fix shutter speed to one of these dials and then just have ISO as a dedicated option, or just use it in automatic mode, depending on what you want to do. So you have a lot of control options with this. The shutter button has the threaded area for a wired shutter release. So you've got that traditional type of push button, physical external shutter thing. Exposure compensation, video record button. You got a little aperture display, which is cool, and you can see it's got the 40 f2 SE version on there. It's a good fit. Just as a comparison, here is the Z5 with 28 2.8, and I think it's basically the same size as the 40, but that's kind of what the Z5 would look like in comparison to the new ZF. We've got the different colors, kind of a Pentax thing. So I had this little display unit I picked up from my local camera shop before they closed. They had this thing for $1. And I was like, it's cool, I'll take it. I used to have Pentax. Okay, one thing of note, it does use the hole style strap lugs. So you're going to use those triangle metal things plus what's on the camera. I'm personally not a huge fan of that style. It seems like most higher end cameras do have that. It's a photography camera, so it's not really an issue to have sound or anything. It's kind of the main reason I don't like them, because they jangle and they make noise. But yeah. On the back here we have the info button, pretty standard Nikon type thing to go into certain detail menus. Of course it's probably a touch screen with all the standard Nikon stuff. It has the circular viewfinder, which is cool. It's always nice to see. I think that's a better in general way to do it. So it does not have a traditional nub style autofocus joystick thing, but you can most likely use this back directional pad / OK button setup, which is fine, and you can probably just use the screen as well. Not ideal for depending on how you do your photography. Did notice on deeper review they took a photo of the actual ports. You got the USB-C, you have a headphone jack and a mic jack plus the micro HDMI. I think it's fine. The thing, this is, in my opinion, is a very photographer focused camera, but that's going to be up to you. And then they also took a photo of the bottom with the battery, but the very interesting thing to me is that it has 2 card slots. It has the standard SD plus a micro SD card slot. So you've got the 2. You can do instant backup. I think it's a good compromise. I did see Deep Review's article author kind of criticize this, but I'm on the other side of the fence here. I think it's smart. It's the difference, in my opinion, from potentially considering this camera to do professional paid work and not doing it. If you've ever had a card failure, which yes, it's potentially rare, but if you ever had it happen, it's not a nice feeling. And having a little bit of extra backup from a second card slot in the camera is good. So I think it's a nice compromise. It's a magnesium alloy body, apparently. Has some weather resistance, which is good. Has a protective fluorine sensor coating. That's interesting. Soft shutter release button. sold separately. Okay. And they are showing a small rig accessory grip. On the Japanese website, they had their own version of this that doesn't look the same. I don't know if we'll even be able to get this specific one in the United States, but it looks like Small Rig is going to be offering something a little bit more substantial. In the past, I have criticized the 26mm f2.8 lens, but I think this is going to be a nice combination of that very thin compact lens plus the ZF. I don't know, which color would you be interested in? I think I would get the orange. All of them look pretty nice. That blue one looks really good too, or the traditional black on black. Looking at the tech specs, we have a few considerations. It does use the EN-EL15C battery, so it's good that it's standardized between all the full-frame Nikon cameras except for the high-end Z9. Battery life is not going to be amazing, like 400-something photos. Potential quirk if you're into video is that it does a crop on 4K 60. I don't think this is a videography focused camera. Obviously you can use it for video and it has pretty nice specifications for video. It's not going to be like the highest of high end in that situation. So it does have the 5-axis image sensor based stabilization, and you can also use it with their VR lenses, of course. On the Japanese website, they mentioned using the current focus point to adjust how the sensor based stabilization works, and it makes a nice benefit to, say, getting focus right on the eyes. Looks like it does vertical orientation with the display and settings, which is cool. There's a dedicated black and white photography mode, so that's an interesting option if you're into that. You just switch it on the dial and then you're right in that mode. With a mirrorless camera like this, it is a nice combination because you have an electronic viewfinder. That means when you're looking through the viewfinder, you see it in black and white. So you get an idea for the tones and everything else that you're interested in looking at. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as film photography, but just use it in color mode if you want it to be more like that. I think that's a cool little addition. There is some type of sensor-based shift functionality to get higher resolution photos. I've never personally been very into that, but it's a thing and it's in the camera, which is cool if you're into that. All that said, it's a very interesting release from Nikon. I hope this is a change, a shift in their current popularity compared to other brands. I think this is a nice addition to the lineup. At the full frame sensor, you have a very attractive looking camera. It's pretty compact for what it is. Still has stabilization, still has a ton of features, has a lot of video stuff even so with that small camera. Obviously there might be considerations with heat buildup, but we'll have to see. You have a bunch of physical controls on it. Very, very nice. And the viewfinder, I think I forgot to mention, is around 3.6 million dot. So I think that's within the realm of being very decent. In this case, I was looking at the specifications of viewfinder, and it's very similar to my Z5, probably the same as Z6, Z7. I think it's more than good enough. Obviously, it's a $2,000 MSRP camera, but it's going to look good. It has nice optics. It's 0.8 magnification. I think that's the word. Yeah, very nice. And it's actually the circular type, which is even better than, say, the Z5, which is more of a basic rectangular type. So if you're into Nikon, the nice thing is that they are starting to allow more manufacturers to release lenses on there. Got the Tamron stuff coming out, the Sigma stuff coming out. There are some repackaged Tamrons that are branded as Nikon, so you got a lot of options. Viltrox, of course. I think some other brands are also getting in on it. It looks nice. It has pretty much anything you could want in a small, compact, hybrid camera like this. So look at the ZF from Nikon. It's got photography bonsai. Thanks.